Son of God often raises debate and controversy. One of the most popular objections to the sonship of Christ is to equate it with creation.
And our question today, was Jesus created, will really be part of a series of questions we'll do over the next few weeks related to the subject of the Trinity.
If someone rejects the Trinity doctrine, does that mean that they believe Jesus was created? Is that the only other option? Does the term only begotten Son really mean created Son? That's what we'll find out today. Hello and welcome to Prove All Things. My name is Nader Mansour, and today we're examining a common and dangerous misconception about the sonship of Christ. The Bible refers to Christ as God's only begotten Son. Does that mean that he was created? Pastor Doug Bečelor expresses a view that is shared by many. Here's what he says about that question.
Now, some read the verses where it talks about Jesus is the only begotten Son, and they think, well, that means there was a time in the remote recesses of eternity when Jesus was brought forth, that God the Father created him somehow.
The Bible describes Christ as the only begotten of the Father, and that indeed he was brought forth before all creation. But the Bible never ever hints that that means he was created. As a matter of fact, not once does the Bible ever refer to Christ as the created Son. Notice these verses. John 1:14. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. The same description is used to express God's love in giving us his only begotten Son. 1 John 4:9. In this was manifested the love of God toward us, because that God sent his only begotten Son into the world that we might live through him. The measure of God's love is that he gave his only begotten Son. So what does begotten actually mean? The answer will have a direct impact on our perception of God's love. There are three ways that we can determine the answer. First of all, Jesus explains his relation to the Father in the following words. I proceeded forth and came from God. I am from him. I came out from God. I came forth from the Father. These are the ways that Christ elaborated on the meaning of only begotten. Secondly, the lexicon confirms that the Greek word for only begotten, monogenes, actually means only born, i.e. soul, only, begotten, child. And finally, if you look up all the occurrences of that word in the New Testament, you will find that in all 9 instances it means the same thing, to be born. I have a video entitled Begotten but Forgotten, where we examine these 9 verses. So the Bible is clear. Begotten does not mean creation. It means birth, to be born or to be brought forth. In sharp contrast to that is how Lucifer, the fallen angel, is described in the Bible. Ezekiel 28:13-15. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering. In the day that thou wast created, thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created till iniquity was found in thee. Twice in this passage, Lucifer is described as being created. He was created as a perfect angelic being who chose to rebel against his creator and maker. Creation is to make something out of nothing. The Son of God didn't come from nothing. He was begotten of his Father. So Christ was begotten and Lucifer was created. And it was Christ who actually created Lucifer. The two words are so far apart in their meaning as far as the creature is from the Creator. As the only begotten Son, Christ is not and cannot be a created being.
Now, some are going to parse and argue with the words. They say, well, Jesus was not made, he was begotten. And he came out of the Father. And they try to make an argument with semantics. But the fact is that if there was a time when Jesus did not exist, and then through some act of the Father, he was brought forth, he was created. That's all you can say. You can't change the words and try to say, well, begotten is different than being created. If he's brought forth by the Father, if he goes from being non-being to being by an act of the Father, he's created.
Not really. The fact is, the Bible is very clear in distinguishing the two terms and their meaning. This is not just semantics. Words have meaning, and we can't just change the meaning of words to suit and defend our theology or our opinion. To suggest that Christ being begotten means that he was created is to really equate Christ with Lucifer. This is not only twisting the Bible, but it is an outrageous insult to Christ, God's only begotten and well-beloved Son. As a matter of fact, it was Lucifer's desire and intention in heaven to equate himself with the only begotten Son. Furthermore, Ellen White actually recognizes what the Bible teaches on the difference between the words begotten and created. They do not mean the same thing. Notice, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Not a son by creation, as were the angels, nor a son by adoption, as is the forgiven sinner, but a son begotten, in the express image of the Father's person, and in all the brightness of his majesty and glory. One equal with God in authority, dignity, and divine perfection. In him dwelt all the fullness of the Godhead bodily. Did you notice that? Christ is not a son by creation, but a son begotten. So there you have it. Both the Bible and the writings of Ellen White are clear that begotten does not mean created. It is not safe to go contrary to the Bible in trying to defend our theories. The divine position and equality of Christ with the Father is an indisputable fact. The greatest evidence for it is Christ's relation to his Father as his only begotten Son. This is a divine birth with a divine inheritance. To deny the one is to destroy the other. We don't exalt Christ by denying his sonship. The Trinity belittles the divine relationship between the Father and the Son and turns it into a meaningless metaphor. We are to reject any teaching contrary to the Bible, no matter how popular it might be. Let us prove all things and hold fast that which is good.